So you've just got your new Samsung Galaxy S25. First of all, congratulations. Today I'm going to take you through the first 25 things that you should do to help you get the most out of this phone and One UI7. Now these tips and tricks are going to help you unlock hidden new features, preserve battery health, extend your battery life, and maximize your Galaxy S25's performance. All right, we're going to start off strong by running a full device checkup. Now, this is important not just if you buy your phone directly from Samsung, but especially if you buy your phone used. You want to make sure every component of your phone is working as it should. And to do this, Samsung has a really handy app, and that is called the Members app. Now, this will come pre-installed on your phone, so we're going to pull up the app drawer, and then we're going to search for the word Members. There it is. And then once the application has opened, we're going to click on the bottom right corner, rather tap on the bottom right corner, and then over here under phone diagnostics, we're going to get started and start with a proper device checkup. And as you can see, it's going to systematically one by one check all physical as well as software components of your phone. Now, this will take a couple of minutes to complete and will sometimes require you to input some action, for example, to press a button or to confirm that you've heard a noise. And this is going to go through every single component of your phone. In fact, let me show you. If we scroll down here, you'll see what it's going to run through, even things like your battery, much more on battery life in a sec, by the way, but also things like your microphone, all your sensors, your display, and you want to make sure that everything here is functioning and working as it should when you get your phone. Additionally, this is also useful if, say, your phone is ever acting a little bit strange, perhaps it's slower or not acting as it should. It's good to run that device checkup here in the Members app to make sure that everything is okay and that if something is wrong, you know what it is. Great, so with that, let's take a look at some new lock screen customizations that come with One UI7, as there's a lot of new features that I want to show you as it helps you personalize and make the phone more for you. So first of all, to customize the lock screen, we're going to jump into the settings app here, and then we're going to scroll down to where we find wallpaper and style right here. And then we're going to tap onto lock screen, which will be the left portion here, and this will allow us to modify the lock screen. Now, the first thing I want to show you is that we have some new clocks with One UI7, so we can actually tap over to style, and you'll see that we actually have a couple of animated clock styles, which I think are really nice. Kind of reminds me a bit of like a smartwatch, you know, having that clock kind of come to life when you unlock your display. I think that's really nice to see. I like this modern one here in particular. Of course, dragging the corners, we can also resize it. And a new feature in One UI7 is we now also have the ability to tap and hold and drag and actually reposition the clock along the display. So this is, for example, useful if, say, you have a picture of a loved one as your wallpaper and you don't want to block their face with the clock here, so you can sort of move it along the side if you like. And then just beneath the clock is where we will find the widgets, and like normal, we can go ahead and remove or add widgets. A couple of ones that I like to always add are weather widgets. I find those to be particularly useful, including here the precipitation widget to let me know whether it's going to rain. If you live in a city like London, that is especially important. And I also like to have the current temperature as well. Now, a pretty cool new widget that is with One UI7 is the ability to actually add a small gallery. So we can tap onto gallery here, and we can add in a new widget. You'll see it takes up 2 slots, but this is going to allow us to actually have an album, or rather a selected photo, permanently displayed on your lock screen. So let me go ahead and pull one up here. Let's take this record player. I think that's a great example. And we'll go ahead and tap done here. And if I go ahead and lock my phone, and as you can see, just to preview this, on my lock screen, I now have those new widgets, the new clock, also with the animation as you saw. And of course, we have that new photo image, which is cool. A nice way to have multiple photos on your lock screen if you like. And the last thing within the lock screen, I'm just going to quickly remind you, if you don't know already, is you can customize these shortcut controls along the bottom hand of your phone. You can customize both. Simply tap on it here, and you can change the action or even launch a specific app right from your lock screen. So I've set mine set to a calculator and the camera along the right. And then once you're happy with all that, simply tap done to save. Great, so now from the lock screen, let's go over to the home screen, where there are, again, some new features that I want to highlight for you in this video specific to One UI7 and, of course, the S25. Now, first of all, you'll see that many of the app icons look a little bit different. Samsung has refreshed them, and I think given them more of a cohesive look, particularly the camera app, the gallery app I like, and, of course, the settings icon. I think it all kind of comes together a little bit nicer as well, something I do like. But one thing I really appreciate is the ability that we now have the option to actually change the icon size on your home screen. So let me show you how to do this. We're going to go into settings, and then we are going to scroll down to where we find a home screen. There it is. And then in here, this slider here, this is new, and this will allow us to actually customize and change the size of the app icons. So now I've made them smaller, as you can see. And just to contrast it here, now I've made them a lot bigger. So this won't affect how many icons you can have on your screen. That's a later tip, which I'll show you later on in this video. This instead will only focus on the icons specifically, making them easier to see. Or again, if you want a cleaner look, you can make them smaller. Speaking of cleaner look, something I really like is you can also remove the app labels. And check that out. I think that actually looks really cool because, of course, these icons are so recognizable. This here just gives it such a minimalistic feel, and I think that looks really nice. And of course, this only applies to the home screen, so in your app drawer, you will still see the full names, but let's keep that on for now. And the same thing here, as you can see along the widgets, we can also turn on or off the labels there if we like. Earlier, I mentioned that changing the app icon size won't determine how many apps you can show on your home screen. But if you do want to change this, what you can do is scroll down and actually change the home screen grid layout. And here we can go from a 4x6 grid, which will be the default, over to a 5x6 grid, as you can see, allowing you to have more applications shown on the home screen, particularly here in the horizontal view, which again gives you more screen space to work with, especially useful if, say, you are on a relatively smaller phone like the regular S25. I like to have the regular 4x6 though. I don't like to have my screen too crowded, but I know some do. I like to have everything right on the home screen for easy access, and this here will be useful for that. Great, and then one more cool new feature on the home screen that I want to show you is improved folders. Now earlier when I was cycling through my home screen here, you probably recognize this new looking folder here on the left. Let me go ahead and quickly bring it back to what it usually is. This is what a typical folder would look like. You probably recognize this. You tap into it and then go into Chrome, for example. So it requires 2 taps from the folder to enter Chrome. However, there is a way to expand your folder and make it more efficient to use. So to do this, you want to simply tap and hold on that folder. And then here on the middle option, you want to tap on Enlarge. And as you can see, that folder is now going to take up a little bit more space. But the beauty of the system is that instead of requiring you to first open the folder to launch an app, you can now launch an app right from here. So let's say I want to open Chrome, simply tap on Chrome. And as you can see, that opens immediately, allowing you to have even more icons on your home screen. And I really like the look here. I think this is a much improved system and a great addition by Samsung. Speaking of great additions, I also like that now in the app drawer, the search bar is positioned at the bottom of the display as opposed to the top, making it just easier to reach while you are using your phone with your thumbs without having to reach and stretch over to the top of your display. So nice little quality of life features and upgrades that we see here. Great, so from the home screen, I also want to touch on widgets on the home screen, specifically widgets here that you can see. So first of all, I want to show you that there are some new widget designs that have come with One UI7. And the first of which, this example here, take a look at this photo widget. You'll see that the frame or the shape of the widget is quite unique. So what we can now do on widgets is we can tap and hold, tap onto settings, and here we can actually change the shape of that widget. Now watch this change as I cycle through, and I think this is a great way to, once again, add an additional layer of customization to your home screen and really personalize those widgets and make it more cohesive with, say, the rest of the design of your phone. I like this one in particular. It's quite simple, but particularly nice there in the corner. Now, what is also neat is resizing your widgets is a lot easier than before. So let's go ahead and add a new widget. By the way, a quicker way to do this is to simply pinch outwards on your home screen without having to jump into settings first. And then we can tap onto widgets here in the bottom of your display. And let's go ahead and search for clock, as that's one I particularly like. And we can add the smallest widget here. First of all, the clock widget is now smaller than before, something I think is a nice touch, making it easier to find and select to start an alarm or a timer. But if I drag on the corners, as you can see, I can instantly resize this widget without having to first remove it and then add a new widget to change the size. And this also applies here to the photos widget too. So if I can very easily tap and drag and then move it along the side to instantly resize this widget right on the home screen, making it easier to customize these features. Oh yeah, and there's one more widget that I want to show you that I think is particularly useful here with One UI7, and that is a new calendar countdown widget. So if we add a new widget, we go to calendar, and as you can see, first of all, we now have this new countdown section, and I can go ahead and add a widget like so. And we can actually set this to any calendar event that we have. So it can be to Mother's Day, it can be to any particular date in our calendar. As you can see, we can add a specific event, create a new one, or go through your calendar and pick an existing one. And what it's going to do is it's going to start a countdown and show you how many days left until this event takes place. Something that I think is a really nice touch, great motivation if, say, you're waiting for a particular day or looking forward to a holiday, who knows what. And you can also change the background to help personalize this further with a image if you like as well. So another great widget, and all this to show these are small, but I think really good quality of life improvements when it comes to the home screen and particularly widgets on the S25. And this brings me to a new feature with One UI7, and that is the Now bar that you see right here on the bottom of the display. If you've ever used an iPhone, this will look a little bit familiar to, say, the dynamic island. However, I actually think that this implementation is better because it is, again, situated at the bottom of the display, making it easier to reach rather than having to go to the top of the screen. And as you can see, what that's going to do is allow you to quickly cycle through any live activities or applications that are running in the background. So, for example, I have a timer running here. I can go ahead and tap, of course, to expand and open the application. If I just go back here, you'll see that I also have a recording going on, a voice memo is recording. I can check my my card as well. And this is a great way to also check the weather, to go through all these different applications and see this info at a glance. I can even tap on it to, for example, pause that recording or stop it entirely. And again, tap on it once again, unlock your phone to fully launch the app. So that is a Now bar. You will find that over on your lock screen. And then over on the home screen, certain applications will also have mini sort of Now bar widgets that I can also drag and move around if I like. I think a timer is particularly useful. This way, when I'm in another application, there we go, I'm browsing my pictures, I can still keep an eye on that timer. And if I, of course, want to remove that, I can simply tap and hold and drag that here to the bottom to close it. The Now bar itself can also be customized in the settings, and I'd like to show you how. So what we're going to do is jump into settings, and then from here we are going to go over to the main page, and then we're going to scroll down to where we find lock screen and AOD right here, and then we're going to tap onto the Now bar. And this here is going to determine which applications you want to allow to show in the Now bar. This will depend on which applications you have installed on your phone. You can see by default quite a few of the Samsung specific applications, even things like Maps. That one's very useful. Will rather request to show within the Now bar, and you can turn that on or off if there are certain apps you want or don't want. And the Now brief as well, that's something you can also turn on or off. That gives you that daily overview. Let me quickly show you what that looks like. For example, of your calendar invites, as well as things like the weather. So can be useful as well, but that's something you can turn on or off if you like. Great. And then before we jump into some really essential settings to change for your device, I want to also show you the upgraded quick settings panel. As you can see, swiping down from the top right of the display now reveals an entirely new panel that is separate from what it was before. As previously, your notifications and your quick settings panel were in one, were combined in one screen, where now they are two entirely separate screens. So swiping from the center middle of the top of your screen will show you your notifications, and swiping down from the top right will bring you your quick settings page. Also, you can cycle between the two by simply swiping left and right for easy access if you like as well. This, I think, is a massive upgrade. I like the fact that there's more emphasis on each, so you can see more of your notifications on the notification page because there's more room, and here you can see more of those system toggles because you have the entire page dedicated to it. In fact, you can even expand this further. So as you can see, it's sort of grouped into individual panels, which we can actually move around. So I can tap on the little pencil icon here to edit this, and let's say I want to move this panel, simply tap and hold, and then I can move this up or move it down depending on where I want to prioritize it. My advice would be to have, of course, the most used toggles along the top so they are easy to access, and individual panels can also be edited. So first of all, I can resize. So if I want more controls shown, I can make it larger. This is usually what you'd have. I can even make it smaller if I want fewer to be shown, and then I can also modify the controls themselves by tapping on the edit button here, and that's going to allow us to remove or add new available buttons or controls from your device. So for example, let's say I want to add battery protection, I can add that in, and if it's something I use frequently, I can then tap and hold and drag it over to the top, and as you can see, that's then going to make it super easy for me to find, have it high up on the list there to quickly locate it and access that control. So that's the upgraded quick settings panel. I think it is a massive quality of life improvement, and I really encourage you to customize this like I showed you to really make it as useful for you as possible. Alright, so now that we've looked at a lot of the new features with One UI7 specific here to the Galaxy S25, let's go over some essential settings to change, specifically starting out with some essential security settings. And what better place to start than with the lock screen and unlocking your Galaxy S25. Now, one of the things I like about the S25 is that you have many different options and different ways to unlock your phone. I think options are always great. However, that's not to say that they're all equal. Some are better than others. And here I'm going to show you which are the best way and the most secure ways to unlock your phone, and which are not as secure and which I don't really recommend you use. So to do this, we're going to first jump into settings, and then we're going to scroll down to where we find a lock screen and AOD right here. And then we're going to tap onto screen lock and biometrics, and then type in your device's PIN. There we go. And here we have the different options to unlocking your device. So first of all, right off the bat, let me tell you which ones I don't recommend you use. First of all, that's going to be face recognition. Now, face recognition, while it does work relatively well, it is nowhere near as secure or as in-depth as something like Face ID on your iPhone. Where the Galaxy phones, particularly the S25, really shine is with the use of that ultrasonic under-screen fingerprint sensor, and that right there is using fingerprints to unlock your phone, and that is what I recommend in terms of the biometric side, as it is much more secure and also really fast. And a pro tip as well, I recommend registering multiple fingers. For example, both thumbs. You can even do the index fingers. This way, no matter how you're holding your phone, or if say you want to unlock it from a desk, you can very easily do so with comfort and ease. Right, so to recap, use fingerprints over facial recognition on this phone. As for this top section here, whether to use a PIN, password, or pattern, I don't really recommend using a pattern, as this is quite easy for someone to keep track of, to guess, or even to see. Let's say someone looking over your shoulder at an airport or something like that, right? You want it to be a little bit more secure, a little bit more private, and that's where a PIN, of course, will be great, but a password is ideal, as that's naturally going to be longer and, of course, a broader range of characters as opposed to just having numbers. Personally, I use a PIN because you also want something that is relatively quick, but at the same time, if you want to go all out in security, which I know some do, you're going to want to make sure to use a password. Next, let's talk about applications. So you can download applications, of course, from the Play Store, from the Samsung App Store, as well as anywhere from the web. And this is a great thing, as it gives you access to, well, a lot of different applications. But of course, you do want to make sure that what you download is safe and that there's no viruses or malware within any of those downloads. And there is a feature that I highly recommend you turn on, and that is called app protection. So to do this, we're going to go into settings and scroll all the way down to where we find device care right here. And then in here, we're going to tap onto app protection. And in here, you're going to have the option to turn this on. And that is something I highly recommend you do. Now, what does this do? Well, this is going to periodically scan in the background all of the applications on your phone to check for viruses, to check for malware. And then if anything is detected, you will be prompted to immediately remove that application to make sure you are protected. And jumping into settings here, you do also have the option to start a manual scan at any point. And as you can see here, that's going to then go through and systematically scan all the applications within my phone. So this is the type of feature that you hope to never need, but it's just for peace of mind. It's nice to know that this is running in the background. So definitely something I recommend you turn on, and I'm kind of surprised it's not on by default. Next, I want to talk about notifications, as if you're like me, you probably have dozens, if not more, notifications coming in per day, and this can be great. Of course, you want to stay up to date with certain things, but at the same time can also distract you throughout the day. And of course, every notification that comes in will use some battery, right? Your screen wakes up, your speaker goes off, your vibration motor activates, and if you have 100+ notifications coming in per day, this will really add up. So my advice, or my next tip, really is to go through and audit your notifications and see what you need and what you don't. So to do this, let's jump into settings here. We're going to tap onto notifications, and then in here, we're going to tap onto app notifications, and this will give you a list of all the applications on your phone that have or don't have permission to send you notifications. And as you can see, a lot of mine I've actually turned off, probably half of them or so, as a lot of them don't need to be sending me notifications bothering me throughout the day. For example, shopping apps reminding me that I have an item in my basket, or Facebook reminding me it's someone's birthday and I don't even know their name, for example. These type of things are not useful, so really only stick to applications that you want to be reminded. For example, things like certain social media, messaging applications, finance applications, maybe home appliance applications, right? Things like this you want to make sure to allow, and other things I suggest you turn off. It's good for your mental health, as you won't be distracted as much throughout the day, and also good for your battery. Right, on the subject of battery, let's now take a look at the best feature to turn on to preserve your battery health. And preserving your battery health is ultimately going to help your battery, and by extension your phone, last longer. So we're going to turn on a feature called battery protection. And to do this, we're going to jump into settings, and then we are going to scroll down to where we find device care right here. And then we're going to tap onto battery. And then in here, we have battery protection, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. And then we go one step further by entering this here. You can tap onto battery protection to look at a different level and choose the level of battery protection you want. Now, let me briefly talk you through what each of these are. So the first one, basic, what that's going to do is it's going to charge your phone from 0 to 100% once it's plugged in. However, then stop charging until your phone gradually depletes down to 95% and then charge up again to 100 once it reaches 95%. This will stop your phone from constantly trickling between 100% battery and 99% battery, and it's ultimately going to help lessen the wear on your battery. So this is a very basic, but step one, let's say, of battery protection. However, step two, or option two, is the one that I use and the one that I recommend for most, and that is adaptive battery protection. Now, what this does is it's going to sort of keep track of your charging habits. So let's say you plug in your phone every night at around 11 p.m. at night to charge. What it's going to do is charge from 0% up to 80% battery, then wait to charge with the remaining 20% till closer to when you typically wake up. So let's say you typically unplug your phone at 7 a.m. It's going to wait till about 6:30 or whatever to charge that last 20%. This is going to help stagger the charge, thus produce less heat and thus produce less wear on your battery, helping it last longer. This here, I think, is the best option for most people. However, if you're one of the few who is a battery health saving diehard, there is the maximum battery health protection. And what this is going to do is it is going to involve some sacrifice, but it will go the longest way to preserving your battery health. And that is essentially going to set a permanent cap to your battery capacity at 80%. So you sacrifice that top 20%, but your battery will never be charged beyond 80, which is scientifically proven to be the sweet spot for preserving your battery health. Having a fully charged or fully depleted battery is not good for the health. So having a charge up to 80 will help your battery last longer. But again, because you do lose 20% of your battery, which for me, especially on the S25, it's just not worth it. Plus, I also paid for the whole battery. I'd rather use it, especially on things like travel days, not have to worry about it. So it's too much for me, but I know there will be some that want it. And if you do, this is where you'll find that setting. But for most people, adaptive is going to be the sweet spot. And one feature that I also really appreciate in One UI7 is we now have the option to search within the settings app. So what I can do here is tap on the little magnifying glass, and let's say there's a setting that I don't remember where it is or even may not know exactly what it's called. I can simply type in a keyword, let's say battery, and there we go. I'll be directed to see all of my battery settings, and I can go ahead and tap into that to be brought to that page. So if there is a setting in this video or anything like that you want to go back to, simply search it within the settings app to quickly find that setting, which I think is a really nice feature within One UI7. Okay, so we've looked at a battery saving feature, a battery health saving feature. Now I want to talk a little bit about the best way to charge your phone, as I get questions about this all the time. So I know there'll be people new to my channel on this video, so I do want to reiterate it here. And that is, if your priority is to preserve your battery health, help it last as long as possible, you want to do two things. One, you want to charge with a wired connection as opposed to a wireless connection because it produces less heat, less energy is lost through a direct connection than connecting wirelessly. And two, you want to use a slower charger or a lower watt charger. Think something like 10 watts. 15 watts is going to do a lot less wear on your battery than a higher watt charger like a 30, 40, 50, 60 watt charger, even though that may charge faster. Now, of course, there are moments where you do need a quick charge. Let's say you're about to head out the door and you want to quickly charge your phone. Then by all means, don't worry about plugging it in briefly to a fast charger to get some extra juice. That's fine. It's not going to ruin your battery. But what matters here is what you do at night when you charge your phone every night. And when you're charging at night, you don't need it to charge fast, so you're fine to use a slower charger. And again, I recommend using a wired connection to maximize your battery health. This habit is going to go a long way. It really adds up. Believe me, I've done a test comparing two iPhones, one of which I charged wirelessly and one of which I charged wired over a lower watt charger. The level of difference in battery health after a year was quite substantial. I believe it was about 15% difference in my particular test in battery health. So really recommend you do that. Again, slower charger, lower watt charger, and a wired connection. Next, I want to show you a really useful feature, and that is the ability to lock an application. Now, this is great for security and also privacy. Let's say you have to hand your phone to someone, whether it be a person, to show an address, to show a contact, to whatever it may be, and you want to make sure that they stay within that one app and not be able to swipe home and go through other applications, your photos, your messages, whatever it may be. There is a way to lock an application, and this I think is really great, but you do first have to enable this in the settings. So let me show you how. To do this, we're going to to jump into settings, and then we're going to scroll to where we find security and privacy. There it is. And then in here, we're going to scroll down to where we find more security settings right here. And then in here, we have allow apps to be pinned, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. Now, let me show you a brief example. Let's jump into our browser here, and let's go over to YouTube. And let's say I am handing this to someone, my phone here to someone, and I don't want them to be able to leave this application. Well, to do this, we're going to swipe up and hold to enter the multitasking menu. And then over here, you want to tap onto the app icon in the top center of the application, and then you want to tap onto pin this app. As you can see, this app is now pinned. So if I hand my phone to someone, they can use this application. They can't see my system toggles or my notifications, and they can't swipe home to view other applications or go through my phone. And this is really great because this way you have at least some sense of security if you do need to hand over your phone. Now, to unpin an application, what you want to do is swipe up and then hold. And as you can see, you will then be prompted to enter your PIN or your fingerprint. And as you can see, the app is now unpinned, and I can swipe home if I like as well. So really useful feature that I recommend you turn on. Speaking of useful application features, this is a feature that will allow you to permanently keep an app open in the background. So let's say you are filling out an online form, for example, to book a flight, and you have to go home to pull up some information like a date in your calendar or whatever it may be. You then go back to that form only to find that the app has refreshed in the background, and you have to refill in the form all the way from the start. This can be quite frustrating, so there is a way to actually force an application to stay open in the background, and let me show you how to do this. So to do this, we're going to swipe up and then hold, and once again, enter the app multitasking menu, and then we're going to tap onto the app icon, and here we have keep open. And as you can see, we now have a new little lock that appeared on the bottom right of the screen, and this application will now always remain open in the background so long as that lock is visible. So whatever I do on my phone, whenever I go back to this, in this case Chrome window, Chrome application, this will remain exactly where I left it off. So very useful to make sure this app does not refresh. Now, to disable this, what you want to do is go back to the multitasking menu and simply tap on the lock. And as you can see, that's now disappeared, and that application will refresh if it needs to for, say, RAM management. And now I want to talk about split screen multitasking, probably one of my favorite features of the Samsung Galaxy phones. I think they do this super well, and I love using this feature probably every day, particularly here if I want to say YouTube open to watch a video while I am browsing the web. However, split screen multitasking isn't available for all applications out of the box. There is a setting that you do need to activate, and let me show you how to do this. So to do this, we are going to jump into settings, and then over on the main page, we're going to scroll down to where we find advanced features right here, and then we're going to tap into labs, which will be the second option, and then in here we're going to turn on multi-window for all applications. You want to make sure that this here is activated. Now, this will allow all applications to run into a split screen window like you see here. Particularly things like games often won't work out of the box, but I find when I turn this feature on, they most of the time work just fine. So this is really great if you want split screen multitasking for all applications on your phone. Now, while we're here in a split screen window here, let me give you a couple of tips and tricks for how to best utilize this feature. So first of all, as you can see, I've now got two apps running side by side. What I can do is tap and hold or tap this three-dot menu in the center, and you have this two arrows to quickly swap and cycle between the two apps if you like. Very useful. And of course, you can also tap and hold on those three dots to change how much screen space you want to give to each application. So let's say a YouTube video, I typically give that a little bit less space because it's a wider video, and that gives me more room here over on the browser. By the way, the Galaxy Fold 7, I have pre-ordered them. They will be coming very soon, both the Fold and the Flip, so be sure to subscribe to not miss those videos coming very soon. Very excited to check this out, particularly here, the Fold 7. Anyway, back on topic here. What is also neat is if, say, there is an instance of two applications that you find yourself using often, like I have here, you can actually save this right to the home screen. So to do this, we're going to tap on the three-dot menu, tap on the little star icon, and then we can save this app pair to the home screen. And as you can see, if we swipe home, we now have a new app icon comprised of two previous applications. Tap into that, and as you can see, that's going to pull up those two applications without having to first set it up every time. You can see I've even got one here on my first page because I use these two so often. And now I want to talk about something quite useful, and that is the new Smart Assistant that comes equipped with your Galaxy S25. Now, the S25 comes with a new Bixby/Google Assistant hybrid, which is a lot smarter than having just Bixby previously. This assistant I find to actually be quite useful to get things done, and I found myself using it quite often. What is particularly impressive about this assistant is that it can now work across different apps. So let me give you a quick example here of what that looks like. When is the next flight from London City Airport to Amsterdam?
The next direct flight from London City Airport, LCY, to Amsterdam, AMS, is departure, 3:30 p.m. on July.
Okay, so as you can see, this is really impressive, not only because it's actually pulled an accurate flight, but it shows you where it's found that, and it's actually found that within the Google Flights application. So it's actually searched the web to find Google Flights, and here give me a really nice list of the flights, different times, as well as prices, and I can tap in to book right from here. So this just shows you one example of how the new Bixby and Google Assistant can be used across different applications to help fulfill any requests that you have. So definitely recommend checking this out. Again, Bixby wasn't the most useful thing in the world. You've heard me say that many times, but this here is a really big upgrade. And if you are on the new S25, I definitely recommend you check it out. Next, I want to talk about some AI features, specifically circle to search. Now, this is a really useful feature that allows you to, as you just saw, circle anything that's on screen to Google it and find out more information about it. But this is something that you do need to activate first. So let me show you how to do this. So to do this, we're going to jump into settings, and then over here on the main page, we're going to scroll down to where we find display right there. And then we're going to go down to where we find navigation bar. There it is. And then in here, we have circle to search, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. Now at this point, anytime you tap and hold that menu or that home bar at the bottom here, you can then go ahead and circle anything that's on screen to quickly pull up a Google search to find out more. This is particularly useful. This is particularly useful if, say, you are looking up a product from a video, a location, a contact number, whatever it may be. It's really nice to be able to just highlight anything on screen, like say in a photo, to learn more. So I can go ahead and circle this red post box here, the typical British post box, and as you can see, Google is then going to tell me more about that right there. So great feature. Just make sure it is activated and really easy to use. While we're here in the Photos app, another AI feature that I think is much improved for the S25, and that is going to be the generative fill editor, allowing you to remove objects from photos. So let me give you a quick example for how to do this. Let's say I've got this picture here of these cable cards, and let's say I want to remove one of them. What I can do is tap on the AI button here along the bottom, and then with my finger, I just zoom in and then roughly outline the cable car. As you can see, it does not have to be precise, very rough. As you can see, it has identified that. I can go ahead and tap on the erase icon and watch this disappear from screen. Go and tap on generate. And there we go. It has impressively erased the cable car. Now note that the cable has remained in place. While technically that was something that I did select to remove, however, the AI knows that this cable does normally connect, so it has actually kept that in place, something that I think is really smart. And I use this particular example on an older Galaxy phone in which that didn't happen. So this does show the level of improvement. And as you can see, it's done a really great job, very clean. The clouds in the background look like they're in place as well as they should be. The color of the blue of the sky is retained. Again, the cable looks good. You'd never know that that is there. In fact, here's the original, and there's the previous one. Somehow that cloud has been edited a little bit. I don't know why that is, but the rest of the image looks very good. So definitely something fun to play around with, particularly if, say, you have something in the background of a photo that you want to remove, like, say, a stranger or, I don't know, some trash on the floor in your picture, then this definitely can be a useful feature. So again, all you have to do is open up any image and tap on the AI button there, and then select whatever you want to remove from there. And this brings us to sound and vibration, as there are ways to improve both on your Galaxy S25. So to do this, we're going to jump into the settings app onto the main page. We're going to scroll to where we find sound and vibration. Let me find it. Where is it? There it is, sound and vibration. We'll go ahead and tap into that. And then here, first of all, what we can do is go ahead and change the vibration intensity. Now, what I like here is that you can actually have different sliders depending on what comes in or what the reason is for why your phone will be vibrating. So for example, things like system notifications, notifications, I like to turn lower, or media, have that lower so it doesn't bother me as much. But important things like a call or a notification, like say a message, I want my phone to vibrate a little bit more so that almost within my pocket, I can kind of gauge and feel based on the vibration what it is that's come in. And if it is important, then I can just take out my phone and check. So really useful. I definitely recommend you adjust this setting here too. And now let's talk about sound quality and improving it, as there's a couple settings that are off by default that I really recommend you change here. So on the same page, what we're going to do is tap onto sound quality and effects. And in here, you want to turn on Dolby Atmos. Now, I have no idea why this is off by default, but you definitely want to make sure that this is turned on, as what that's going to do is it's going to give you access to a broader range of frequencies, so more detail in the higher end, say the treble of your music, and more detail in the lower end, the bass of your music as well. It just makes the sound bigger and more broad and more detailed, particularly when you're using headphones. So I definitely recommend you turn this on. Now, I've also had a lot of questions about EQ on some of my previous videos, and this here is where you can also set a system-wide EQ. Now, of course, there's something you can manually play around with the levels for different frequencies. You also have a couple of presets, so you have your bass boost as well as your treble boost. If you want, say, voices to be extra loud in videos or whatever, you can adjust that from there, and this here will be system-wide. Speaking of things to change, let's talk about the side button, as we can make this much more useful with just a couple of settings. Now, what I've set mine to is to trigger the torch. As you can see, I just double press it and that's going to activate the torch. Super useful. Probably use this at least every couple of days to find keys or something in my bag. So really great to be able to just double click that side button. And as you can see, that will then turn on the torch. Of course, this also works when your phone is locked, but you do have to set this up. So to do this, what we are going to do is we are going to go over to where we scroll down and find advanced features. And then in here, we have the side button. And here we can first of all enable a double press. That's going to enable the feature I just showed you. And then we tap into double press to see, or to determine what it is we want that double press to do. For example, to launch a specific application, you can set it to there as well. We can go ahead and choose what we would like it to do within that application, or have it set to a system function like, for example, the torch. Simple, but I think very useful. And we can also choose what we want a long press to do, whether it be to activate the new Bixby Google Assistant, or we can also have that turn off, to rather access the power off menu on your phone. And this next one is super underrated and I think useful regardless of which size phone you have, whether it be the smaller S25 or of course the larger S25 Ultra, and that is the one-handed mode, where as you can see the screen will kind of shrink down to about 50% of its size, making it much easier to with one hand access the top of your screen or say the other end of the keyboard if you are writing a message with one hand. So super useful, very easy to activate. You can also tap the arrow here to move this around, but before I show you how to do this, you do need to first activate this within settings. So to do this, we're going to jump into settings, scroll back down to where we find advanced features like before, and then in here what we're going to do is turn on one-handed mode. Now to activate one-handed mode, you want to do a small swipe gesture down. Let me show you how to do this. Right, like so, just a quick swipe gesture down, and that's going to shrink your screen. You can even move this around if you like. You can move it up, not sure why you would, but importantly you can also move it from left to right. So I'm left-handed, so I like to have it along the left side of the screen. Of course, if you're right-handed, you move it to the right. And once you're done in one-handed mode, you simply repeat the same gesture to once again expand your display. This one here is super useful, one I use probably every day, especially while I'm walking my dog at the leash in one hand and I want to respond to a text with the other.
And well, there you have it. Let me know if you have any questions at all, and if this video was helpful to you, be sure to leave a like, and also let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.